Hello! I'm so glad you're here. I am Kristen Estes, and this is Preach Sister, the show for creative young ladies who are growing in God and their destinies. And today, we are talking about an icky trap: comparison. As artists, I know it's mega easy to compare ourselves to other people. They have more followers than me, they're on tour and I'm not on tour, they're younger than me and they're further along than me. I'm gonna be real with you, of all the things that I talk about, this is one that I struggle with a lot. I know people who have done really well in the entertainment industry and even in the music industry, in places that I want to do really well in. And every year that I get older than 23 years old, it feels like my dreams are slipping through my fingers sometimes. What do we do? How do we deal when social media is like, ding, 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 this person's cooler than you now? Well, one, know who you are. It's normal to continually be learning about yourself, your likes, your dislikes, your talents, your flaws, and that's all good. You should know all of that about yourself. But what I'm talking about here is not about knowing those things about yourself, it's about knowing who you are to God. Sometimes we don't love ourselves enough, and sometimes we love ourselves a little too much. Being selfish and vain is a symptom of our wickedness. It's why we continually need Jesus and need to ask Him to sanctify us, right? It's why He's continually working in us. The easiest place to slip into is our own selfishness. It's okay to like yourself, but remember, it's also our job to die to ourselves. So when we're doing things or treating others well to get something for ourselves, that's actually worshiping ourselves and not loving them and not worshiping God. What you should be confident in above your own desires and talents and wants and all of that is that God created you and He is delighted in you and He sees righteousness when He looks at you, and that He is taking care of your destiny. Be confident in that. When you're confident in this, you can feel the freedom to create things and to love others without feeling like you're performing for their love in return. When you know that your self-worth is not dependent on the approval or the actions of other people, then it's easier to do things for the right reasons. You're not surrounded by relationships where you're doing things for people expecting to get other things in return, kind of like a mutual manipulation exchange. When we aren't secure in the way that God sees us, that's when we feel like people are stealing from us when they've accomplished things. That's when we feel cheated, right? And that brings me to my next point. Number 2, learn to recognize your patterns for when you're being insecure and get help. Personally, when I'm insecure, I get super critical of other people, mega prideful, like holier than thou, kind of trying to elevate myself and my own actions above other people. When this happens, I ask friends that I trust, good friends, to tell me when I'm acting like a clown or when I'm not listening enough, and to speak truth into my life. I also have to remind myself, and usually friends too, that everything is worse at night. I feel like at nighttime everything seems so much more serious and so much bigger than it really is. And so if you start going into a comparison spiral at night, things just get worse and worse and worse. Really, what I need to do usually if I start spiraling at night, and I call it spiraling because you're just going is say a couple things that I'm grateful for and go to bed. Because it's true, His mercies are new every morning, y'all. Know what your tendencies are when you're insecure and do whatever you can to combat them. Write down affirmations, reach out to friends, whatever you need to do to nail in the truth that you are worthy of the calling that you've received and that God is taking care of you and you're not ahead of or behind what He has planned for you. In Psalm 37, 3-7, it says, "Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Aww. "Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your justice as the noonday. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices." God is watching and He sees your faithfulness even when no one else does. So don't be discouraged. Number 3, this is a really big one. Learn to cheer on others. I remember talking to a friend a few years ago and feeling kind of bummed, because I was seeing all these people that we went to school with, and they were like rising in their careers and doing all the stuff and getting cool jobs, and I felt like, there's not enough pieces of the pie left for me. And she said this thing, she's like, I don't really see it that way. I don't think I've ever seen it that way. She said, I think that there's room for everyone. There's room for everyone, guys. There isn't a quota of the amount of, great artists that there can be. I know people win awards every year, and there's definitely opportunities that it's possible to miss out on. That's true, but there is room for you to be successful. For sure. So don't believe the lie that there isn't. And also remember that things don't just happen one way. If you look at even just Wikipedias of famous artists or business people, you'll see that all of their paths aren't a straight line. They're kind of this weird series of circumstances that got them to where they are. Usually things just don't happen until it's time for them to happen. And that's what's holding people back, is just the season and the time. And be thankful for this season of preparation before it's your time. Jesus was a carpenter until he was 30. So learn to cheer on others and celebrate people, because I'd hope that you'd want people to celebrate you when that happens, right? It's such a bummer when you have amazing news and you call people that are close to you and they're just jealous and not celebrating you. How much of a bummer is that? It's just kind of okay, cool. I wanted people to rejoice with me, right? Celebrating people is fun. High five! 4, don't be a destiny martyr. So what I mean by this is, okay, when you're talented and you're a people pleaser, it's really easy to say yes to everything and to get sucked into other people's projects and missions. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to help others. And there's actually a season for this that I recommend doing this, is when you know that you're talented but you're not sure what to do next with your life, sometimes it's good to come into a team that's bigger than yourself, or come under someone else's cause or ministry and figure out your role and your strengths there. That's a really good way to get clarity on what the next step is for you, or to get the team around you that you need to support you in what you're called to do. But humility doesn't necessarily mean putting your own ambitions on the back burner forever. Sometimes humility means going for the big dream that you can only do with God's help. It's the acknowledgement that His will and strengths and resources are greater than your own, and that you can only collaborate with Him on your destiny, that you're not going it alone. God absolutely puts desires in your heart, but the Holy Spirit's like a nosy grandmother. There's no part of your life that He doesn't want to be a part of, right? So let Him in. I'm going to save you a lot of struggle with that. Just let Him into every part of your life and trust that His will for your life is way better than what you could plan for yourself. We have to trust that His presence is better and is going to be better than any tangible, earthly, worldly desire that we have, even if it seems like a godly desire. In order to be content in this life, we have to believe that God's definition of success for us is better than the one that we've defined for ourselves. When we celebrate others and are confident that God has our lives in His hands too, it helps us not only believe in, but receive what He has for us. Now, I want to hear from you. How do you guys deal with comparison in your life? I know you deal with it. Don't lie to me. And if you have any other topics or questions that you want me to cover on Preach Sister, feel free to leave those in the comments below also. And be sure to subscribe for more bi-weekly videos on growing in God and your destiny. And yes, I said bi-weekly because I am one person and making weekly videos is kind of a lot of work. So I'm gonna cut myself some slack here, okay? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.